So hi, James. It's Beate. How are you doing? We just went live, so I want to let a few people join us because you know how it goes. We have hundreds and hundreds of people that have signed up for the webinar just to listen to what you have to say.
Wow.
You are today's celebrity.
Wow, that's great. 444 people at the moment. It's very exciting. Hello, everyone.
Yes, and I'm seeing quite a few people coming in right now, so we'll just chat a little bit until everybody is coming in live. I see that you know, on the broadcast to the public, there's still like a minute left, and where it says that it's going to go live, so they can see us in about 46 minutes. But we'll just keep chatting all along. So one of the things I found was really interesting, James, is that as we are talking about the state of stock, that there seems to be really quite a bit of, not confusion, but disillusion with the market, where many of our photographers are upset about what's going on with the industry, and they are looking, you know, to sort of somebody explain to them what's going on. So just assure everybody here that that's what's going to happen today, that we're really going to talk the real stuff and you will hold nothing back.
No, absolutely. I think from our point of view, from my point of view, I've always find it's very good to talk about these issues. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions that are around with stock. We deal a lot with, you know, Alamy have about 30 to 40,000 photographers who have images online with us, and we deal with photographers every day. So these guys are not just working with Alamy; they work with a whole number of different agencies. So we hear a lot of the issues and the questions and the concerns people have, and I think it would be good to chat with you about this because, like you say, we don't just want to focus on the Alamy side. I think it's very important to talk about the industry in a wider sense, and you know, it's also good to discuss the opportunities out there to make money. You know, just with stock photography in general, it's certainly not going to be just about how you can work with Alamy. And the questions that came through were great, and yeah, hopefully we can have a good chat about it.
Right, and I think that that's really what I believe that everybody's looking forward to hearing from you, is about, you know, what's really going on in the industry. We've heard about the acquisition of Fotolia by Adobe. We've seen prices continue to drop. So there's been a lot of misinformation, not just misinformation, but speculation in the industry. All right, I see that we still have people coming in, but I think because we have only a limited amount of time, so let's get started right away. I'm going to say my little introduction because I will be cutting the tape off at this time when I rebroadcast it.
Right.
Hello, everybody. This is Beate Gillette, the PhotoViz coach, and I am broadcasting live from Los Angeles. I have a fantastic guest here today, James Allsworth, which is very hard with the S and W for me to pronounce for some reason, from Alamy, and we go way, 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 way back. So it's like hanging out with a friend and talking about the state of the industry and talking about sort of what's going on. So James, thank you so much for making the time to be here today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So let me just give you an overview of what we're going to do today. So I have written up a few questions, which I have right here in front of me, that were submitted straight from our audience, because I put it out in the photography business group on LinkedIn, I put it out on Facebook and Google, and people were asking some really interesting questions. So I would like to go over as many questions with you as possible, and true to my form, because I am all about the business, I'm all about making money. We have heckled out something where we want our audience to actually get engaged so that they can create an additional revenue stream, and we will talk about that in just a moment. So as a photo biz coach, for those of you who do not know me, which I find shocking, but I have been in the industry for a very, very, very long time. And I sold my business, Beata Works, a stock photography syndication, in 2006 to Corbis, which is owned privately by Bill Gates. And while I didn't invent the at-home story, I certainly took the celebrity at-home story to be a worldwide phenomenon. And we sold into 79 countries and selling hundreds and hundreds of celebrity at-home stories and at-home stories and everything around living well. My specialty was architecture interior. I have an actual photography degree, and and I just love the industry. If you were to know me better, you know that I am not a big fan of the bohemian lifestyle. I like us making money with art, because I believe that if there is no art, if there's no photography, if there's no illustration, if there's no design, then the world would be a miserable place. So it is my honor and privilege to help all of you on the call to understand the business behind the art better, so that you, like me, get to enjoy a wonderful lifestyle. But now we are putting the spotlight on James. And James, for somebody who does not know you, what would you tell them about you? Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name's James Ordsworth. I'm the Content Partnerships Manager here at Alamy. I've been at Alamy about 10 years, so, well, coming up to 11 years actually. I studied digital media at university, and my degree was actually awarded from the Birmingham Institute of Art and Design. And straight out of uni, I was looking for a job either involving web design or photography. And I'm from Oxford in the UK, and luckily this company, Alamy, were looking for new recruits. And I got a job straight out of university at Alamy on the sales side of the business, where I worked for a year or two working with customers and image buyers. But I now work on the content side. So I've been on the content team for about 9 years. I've worked over the years with hundreds of different agencies, large and small, thousands of different photographers. And I also run the student scheme here at Alamy. A lot of my work is revolving around getting images onto the site, including vectors and videos. And I also work on the Stockamo team, which is our mobile app for smartphone imagery. So most of my day is revolved around working on projects that are about improving the photographer experience. And for those of you who don't know too much about Alamy, we're not going to focus entirely on Alamy in this talk. What we are going to do is talk more widely around stock in general. But just to give you a bit of background on Alamy in case you don't know us, we started in 1999. And since then, on average, each year, we've paid out around $10 million to photographers each and every year since we've started. So we know how to make money for photographers. Most of our sales, well, the majority of our sales come from the US, but they're primarily made up of the US and the UK. And we have over 100,000 individual picture buyers registered with us. Our HQ is here in the UK, but we've got an office in Brooklyn and an office in Brisbane in Australia. And we also have a team of 82 distributors that are based all over the world. And, we sell images to everywhere and everyone who buys stock images. So, book publishers, ad agencies, designers, creatives, all the usual places you'd expect.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So we have some comments in the chat room, and some people said there is an echo. Mm-hmm. We are going to try to not speak at the same time, but I'm having a little bit of issues with my microphone because, as you can see, I have a really nice microphone, and it's supposed to give me the output over my headset, so we don't have an echo. So I apologize if our sound isn't as crisp as I usually like to. I want to encourage you, put some headsets on. That should take it, that should certainly reduce it. So my apologies. I've been fiddling with it all morning. It's just one of those things. So let's jump right in with the questions. So we have, and I'm actually going to read these, so you guys see this is actually the real thing. You submitted the questions, I wrote them down, and I'm asking them, as we say. So James, a lot of people have said that stock seems to be a business model of the past. And is there anything out there, a new system, something that's replacing stock? Is stock obsolete? Sort of give us the big picture. What in the world is going on with stock photography?
Well, we do hear the phrase, is stock as we've known it dead? It depends what you're referring to as we've known it. Are we talking 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? If we're looking back that far, you could argue that the stock itself really changed with the advent of digital. Since then, competition has increased year on year, and there's more images around than there ever have been before. But I don't think we could say that stock is a thing of the past. It's still very much alive and well. If we were to, I think looking at current estimates of how much the stock photography industry is actually worth, you're looking at between $2 and $3 billion. So anytime I hear the word billion, I think we can safely assume that there's money to be made there. But it is fair to say that if you're thinking, can we go back to a time in stock like it was in the 80s and the 90s, then absolutely not. Those times have gone. But there is money to be made in stock, and I think there are more images being used than ever before across a wider range of mediums. In the past it was just print, but now images are needed for online use across a whole range of industries. You can think large businesses, large corporations, they've all got websites that all need images, but also that smaller businesses. Everyone needs images is the thing. And I think that's perhaps where it's been different from the past, where it is confined to print or confined to ad agencies. I think there are actually more buyers out there than ever before. And there's plenty of new stuff on the horizon that we don't even know about yet. If you'd have said to me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that we'd be consuming most of the imagery we see each day on our smartphones or on our mobile phones, cell phones, we would have said, really, how's that going to work? And here we are now, and we know the situation. So I haven't got a crystal ball as to exactly how we're going to be consuming images in the future, but there will be plenty of things on the horizon that will require photography. And I think that means there's opportunity there for producers. And the other thing is, just to quickly mention, is that most agencies are looking to widen their scope outside of just photography now, including Alamy. We look for news imagery, vectors, illustrations, but also video as well is coming forward. And there's definitely opportunities there as well. And the odd mantra that good images will always sell. If you've got good imagery, there will always be a market for it, and there's always money to be made.
Right, and I think that I want to second that. What I found is that, and I'm a mom of a 22-year-old, almost 23-year-old. So the ease of the millennials that they have around technology is so different than what we grew up around. For us, I remember when, I started working on a telex machine on the hallway. I thought that was the gift. And then there came the fax machine, and we thought, wow, what a revolution to business. So the revolution or the evolution of business systems is a just normal way of society. And that I look at her, and they put multimedia presentations together. They do videos, they do photo, they do text, they do overlays, they do graphics. So it's not necessarily that it's not our job to judge on how the next user operates with the systems, but it's our job to provide the user with materials and photos and content that they then can use to operate and use at their discretion in the way they want it. I think that's sort of a big mind shift for a lot of our listeners here, is that, believe me, I remember, I was a photo editor at Elle magazine. When, back in the days, it was beauty photography. There was no retouching. If the makeup wasn't perfect, the model wasn't perfect, the photographer didn't know how to light, it was a disaster. And I remember when Tien, the photographer, the editorial came out, and we looked at the magazine in front of us, and you wanted to touch the page because it was so perfect. Today, it's like all washed out. So it's just different. It's not better or worse. It's just different. So please, guys, make sure that mind shift is really what needs to be on the forefront. It's not so much about what did happen in the past, but what's happening now, and what do you have to provide to make, to make an income or to create an additional revenue stream, providing users with the kind of content that they need today. So next question, the toughest question of them all: is stock done as a business model?
Is stock done? I mean, just building on what we just said there, I don't think so. You have to get in the mindset that the market is huge. The market itself is huge. There's no way of saying for sure where it's going to go. But there's certainly people, and lots of agencies, lots of photographers out there making money at the moment. And those that are making money are really taking advantage of the platforms they've got available to sell their work. The competition is high, but also the opportunities are huge, because many agencies like Alamy work on a non-exclusive basis, and it means you can create a huge amount of visibility to work very, very quickly. And perhaps the biggest shift, and a frustration I see or I hear from lots of photographers who have been in this game for 15, 20 years, is that you need to get your mind around probably the lower value sales, but picking up more of them. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. I think some photographers get frustrated and say, well, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have got X amount of money for this license. And today, if you're hanging on for those huge one-off licenses, they're just so rare. They're not going to happen. They do still happen, but they're rare. So I believe that the model should be more around getting value out of the work you produce and making lots and lots of sales to this huge market, but accepting that the prices for those licenses are perhaps lower, well, they are lower than what they were in the past.
Absolutely. I do believe that really is true. And as much as I would love to tell you that there is one sale at $25,000 for a couple of clouds that you shot on your last trip to Ireland, and then that's going to be the cloud that's being used on every advertising for Nike all over the world, and then they reuse it in 3 years again and they pay you another $10,000 for it. That's just not happening anymore. So if there is a significant value in the image that's being produced, they will shoot that image themselves. Stock now is a supplement as to what customers are using to demonstrate their their ideas. I am obviously out in social media all the time. I use a ton of images, and I use a subscription because I do so much. I post at least 2 blog posts a week. So I have a tip sheet. I do videos. I do so much stuff. I constantly need illustrations and images. So for me, I cannot pay hundreds of dollars for an image, but I will pay, $1, $5, $10, depending on how good the image is. But I have to, because there's so much content out there, I have to produce a lot. And it's not that I can do one piece and the piece has to be perfect. It has to be good enough, and there has to be enough of it out there. So be clear about that. That stock has always been a numbers game, always. So you've got to put the numbers in, and the numbers come out. If you put 5 images up somewhere and then you expect that you have a $10,000 a year income, it's not going to happen. You have to have hundreds and hundreds of images, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right. So let's get a little bit more specific, if that's okay, James. So the next question is, who is best to shoot for? Should I stick with one agency, or should I upload to multiple agencies? And is there a best approach for stock?
I think every individual is different, but in my experience and looking at how the market is today, I'd recommend using multiple agencies in order to maximize the visibility of your content. I would never recommend for a photographer to put all their eggs in one basket. Even though Alamy would love to be able to say, we're the only people with this particular set of images and be your exclusive distributor, I don't think that's best for the photographers. And I think the majority of photographers should view someone like Alamy and lots of other stock libraries and agencies at the same time as just additional revenue streams to their overall photography business. It's just another arm of your overall package. You know, the modern general photographer will have streams of revenue from some print sales, and there's some great on-demand, you know, like Fine Art America now, people do very well out of that. But you should make money from print sales, from stock sales, and get some commissioned work as well. I think the best way to do it is to spread yourself across all three and treat each of the platforms within stock, you know, as an additional revenue stream. I mean, some photographers do stick to the one agency model, and they can make it work depending on who you are, depending on your type of content, but that is becoming less and less common. And you know, it's certainly a reason why, you know, we're non-exclusive in terms of, if you have your work with us, you can sell your work elsewhere, and lots of other agencies are as well today.
Absolutely. And again, you know, I want to point this out, that you know, some of the big agencies, obviously in the premium model, like Getty has Contour and Corbis has Outline, there are certain parts of the market when it comes to celebrity where an exclusivity might help you with getting an additional premium price for your image, but that is increasingly rare as well. But you know, that's a very, very small percentage in the market where exclusivity might be your advantage. But as far as, again, you know, getting your images out there, it is there's been studies made as to if the overlap between two agencies is you know, what the percentage was, and I think the percentage is like only like 30%. So clients do have their favorites that they go to and where they buy their images. So do remember that it is good to be spread wide. And thank you so much for being honest and upfront about that and saying, well, we'd love to have you exclusive, but it's probably not a really good idea. So guys, I told you, he was going to tell you what the truth is in the market. This is not strictly self-serving, so I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder and give you a thumbs up for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So the next question is, let's go to shooting stock once was this great dream. I travel, I take a bunch of gorgeous girls that are frolicking on the beach. I take some images, I send them in, I make thousands of dollars, I rinse, wash, repeat, and I go right back out there and I do it all over again. Is that a stock model that still exists?
The travel photographer, and I think being able to do that to fund your travel, pay yourself a wage, and see the world, as your sole stream of income, I really think that very few people these days would find it viable, unless you're in, you know, the top 5 travel photographers in the world already. You're probably not going to be able to make that work. The days of being paid like this, enough to sustain the lifestyle you mentioned there, are pretty much gone, purely down to oversaturation and competition. If we take, you know, travel as an example, you know, the world is so much smaller now. 20 years ago, if you were fortunate enough to be traveling around the islands in Thailand and you were taking photos of exotic beaches that were empty and, you know, they were deserted, you go back to those beaches today and they will be covered in sunbeds, and they will be covered in people, and they will be covered in photographers. It's
I'm just trying to envision this. There's like a whole beach, and there's like one after the other with like one gorgeous girl after another, and they're like all taking pictures, and then they try to sell sort of the same thing. It's pretty hysterical.
Yeah. That is Thailand now. I don't know if you've been to Thailand recently, but that's what it looks like. But no, seriously, you know, the world is smaller, and it means that previously, in the days where you could be a traveling, you know, paid photographer, you know, the equipment was far more expensive, the production of the images was far more expensive, and there were all these barriers to become that person. Now, you know, we can take photos with our smartphones that can be used in ad campaigns. And that doesn't mean that you can't make money. It just means that there's so much more competition out there. The overall prices per images, per license and per use has gone down considerably to make that sort of sole way of earning your photography income as something that just isn't viable these days, unfortunately.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So let's dive into sort of the big category, lifestyle photography. So what portion of stock is lifestyle? Because that was like one of the big boom, the big explosions. That's what put stock on the market. And even in iStock, when Yuri Arkus went out and he just started shooting all these, these business type of lifestyle shots. What's going on with lifestyle stock?
Well, I think lifestyle is as popular as it's ever been. Ad agencies and brands will always need to show aspirational and, more importantly, relatable people in the brands and the ads that they're producing. And fashions change quickly and things move on. I mean, you mentioned Yuri Arkus there, who really completely changed the face of that type of imagery with microstock and his business and lifestyle. And I had a meeting with him a few years ago, and we were talking to him about the rate by which he produces images. And he was very keen to stress that these images have a shelf life. After 2-3 years, they become dated. Fashions change, hairstyles change, technology changes, and this is good news for the lifestyle photographer, because there's plenty of customers out there that need these images, but they don't want an image of someone using a mobile phone from 2 or 3 years ago. They need something that looks modern, that's current, and this means that there's a constant stream of opportunity to shoot this type of content. And I think thinking of who uses lifestyle images today, I think you've got more users than ever before. I mean, I don't know if anyone else agrees, but across social media, I feel like I'm bombarded with lifestyle articles. I have articles pushed to me about healthy living, getting your work-life balance right, bringing up a family, and all these sort of editorial lifestyle pieces need images to go along with them. And this is good news. It means lifestyle imagery is popular, and there's lots of clients out there who need it.
Excellent. Well, I totally agree with you. I believe that, let me just give you one example. So my daughter right now has these like super, super long nails, right? Which I find not very pretty, but she thinks they're very hot and sexy because everybody else has them. So just something very simple like that as to how women do their nails is something that become very quickly outdated. So, which sort of leads me into my next question about production, putting money aside for production, and sort of how should I produce types of things. So if you want to do productions that are on a shoestring budget, you want to spend as little money as possible, because I believe what we're seeing in stock photography is a much, 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 much quicker turnaround now. So, and I think that probably is one of the sources of frustration, where we used to believe that an image has this extensive longevity. So one of the reasons why I went in architecture and interior and living is because a contemporary house will remain one. A modern house will remain one. A case study house will remain one. A traditional living room is a traditional living room. So our images had to this day, and I sold in 2006, and by the time I sold, I already done it for years. To this day, you look at these images, and the wooden ball is the wooden ball on a traditional table in a living room with traditional window dressings. So there's some longevity in this, but people change. And especially in the lifestyle categories, our feeling about what works, or look at diversity. So it used to be a business meeting was a bunch of guys and a token woman. Now we have a business meeting with men and women, and there's still more men. Then we're like, oh my gosh, we have to add now diversity. So now it's the business meeting with the men, the women, and there's a token black guy in there. Now wait a minute, now that's not politically correct anymore. So now we have the African American, we have the possibly the Muslim with woman with a headscarf in it. We have an Asian woman in there. So, it's really changed, or with the couples out there, interracial relationships. So you know, you guys got to be really clear about that. There's trends in photography, because our whole life is based on trends. So stock photography isn't shooting one thing that will last you for 20 years, but it's really about constantly feeding the machine. So if I were to have, let's say, $100,000 to invest in a stock production, would I put it in rights managed, royalty free, micro stock, and why? And then there was the second part of the question, would I invest it in stock or would I invest it in video?
Right. Well, it would be great to be in a position to have $100,000 to invest in something, of course. But yeah, if we're thinking where would I invest it in within stock? I think you mentioned there rights managed, royalty free, or micro stock. I would actually, you know, these three still coexist. They each make money, each have their own merits. And it might sound like I'm ducking the question a little bit here, but I would split my investment across all three of them. And I would track my performance across all three, because I feel that would be the most viable way to make a return. You can focus on one area. You can just produce RM, you can just produce RF or microstock and do well. But for me, it's about, you know, spreading that visibility and tracking what works best. And at the same time, if I'm doing RF shoots, RM shoots for stills, I'd be shooting video at the same time. You know, I speak to lots of agencies who have huge, expensive shoots with models in good locations that cost lots of money. And I say to them, you know, are you shooting video at the same time? And they're like, not yet. We don't really get it. And I'm like, well, it's not that difficult. You've got all the setup there. It's just about recording some footage at the same time, because that is certainly somewhere that's on the up. But in a way, the question about where would I invest, I personally feel that the RM, RF, and the microstock, that it's all merging in a way. You know, you've got RF being sold with RM style rights packages, you've got RM being sold with RF style rights, and the microstock prices are actually edging up. And I feel, and I think, you know, a lot of us here at Alamy feel this, that in the future we're going to look back and, you know, there'd be no such thing as a license type. You know, customers are increasingly telling us they don't really care if something's RM, RF. They tell us what they need the image for, what their budget is, and if we can meet it. And if you think about it from a customer point of view, is this image RM? Is this an image RF? Are we going to make them do different searches for different collection? It gets confusing. It creates friction. And I think it's all about simplifying the process. And I think the way things are heading is that the license type model that we see at the moment will be a thing of the past before long.
Okay, no, I completely, again, agree with you. And, you know, I think that the rights managed, royalty-free micro stuff is all going to become very blurry, because people, I mean, it's always been very, very complicated. I think that rights managed may be around for a certain number of high-level stuff, as I just said earlier, celebrity photography being one of them, just because you want to cut out the competition. But for everything else, and I've heard this, and when you and I were speaking about it, you said people are just not paying attention to it anymore. So what I want to just go over, if that's all right with you, James, I'm going to just take a look at the chat room, because we have a whole bunch of chatter going on. So Louis said, what's RM and RF? So the models are rights managed, royalty free, and micro stock. So rights managed is if you put an image in, and every use is tracked. So when a advertiser, let's say with the example of Nike, comes and says, I need an image that I'm using for my advertising campaign for the Olympics, but nobody else can use it, then a company that has rights managed images will then go and check with all the other images and the photographers that have, with the photographer, with all the image, other agencies that have this image, and say, you guys need to pull the image because Nike's paying us $30,000 to put it out, and then it gets cleared and all the usage is being brought forward. That's what rights managed is for, to ensure that one advertiser doesn't have the same image. Royalty free used to be when, you remember when the CDs or the DVDs came out, where somebody bought like 30 or 40 royalty free images for $200, $300, $400, $500, $1,000, and then they could use these images over and over again. And microstock is images that are anywhere priced between $1 and I think $25 on average, where you can just go and use these images, but technically every single use should be then, a license. So let's take a look at what else is going on. The Getty situation, guys, stay focused on the call, okay? Because we are having your questions that we are answering. Don't go off in ADD entrepreneurship land. Stay focused on the call. We are answering your questions. The Getty, and if Getty's making any money, is irrelevant for this call. I'm going to be a tough love photo biz coach right now. Stay here and ask questions that are relevant for James and this phone call. All right. There of course are lots of other stock agencies out there. And then there's a conversation about if you are going out in a group of photographers banding together to create a sort of licensing model to, like very much I think what Getty had done with sort of the photographer's choice model. So I am, James, please do jump in on that. I don't really think that there is any advantage, to be honest with you, for you guys to band together and then submit 500,000 images or 5,000 images under one sort of group name, other than you just created an absolute accounting nightmare for yourselves. Because how are you going to ever even differentiate of what was sold and multiple licenses and everything? Forget it. In stock, it's every man and every woman for themselves. James, do you have any feedback on that?
I would agree with that. I think there's definitely been successes, demonstrable successes where small groups of photographers have banded together and created perhaps a small niche agency, and I think that can work to a certain extent. However, I think, like you said earlier, it's every man, every woman for themselves. I think we were talking about the size of the industry earlier. There's so much opportunity there. If you do a bit of homework, if you look at what the market wants, if you look at what the competition is producing and you can improve upon it, there's just so much opportunity. Why would you not do it on your own? Because then the split gets cut one way, in a sense, because you're not part of a huge group that have to, like I say, go through all the different aspects of who's in charge of what and how do we distribute and how do we share out the funds from this particular venture. I would say that there's so much opportunity for the individual out there right now, more than there ever has been. The market's bigger than it ever has been. That if you can just put the hours in initially, and it might be tough at first, but there's so much opportunity there. I would 100% say go on your own. You've got a great potential revenue stream if you can just put that initial work in.
And you know what it is, guys, I can tell you exactly what this is because I deal with this every day, all day long. And Victor, I am gonna totally take you on that in the chat room. If you believe that banding up with somebody else is going to increase the chances for you, you fall in the category, and here comes some tough love again, middle-aged, angry white guy, which the photography industry is littered with. So if you are someone who believes that this is a battle out there, where being aggressive toward distribution, like Alamy, Getty, Corbis, somebody who's aggressive with clients, and gets in sort of this argumentative, defensive kind of negotiation mode, you have no business to be in this business anymore. I'm gonna be very, very clear about this. The only people that are surviving right now are the people that are getting with the program, that understand that it is not Alamy, not Getty, not Corbis. It is the new buyer. The millennials, it's 80 million of them that have a different way to buy, to express themselves. You cannot by yourself take this on. And if you do, you're done. I mean, photographers going up by the thousands out of business because they don't understand this very a single thing. And it's, you know, and this creativity comment, Victor, hello. What's creativity have to do with any of this right now? We're talking about your creativity is your, is the basis for you to even be out there and doing what you do. That is not the question. It is your business skill and your business sense, and that is why we're having this phone call. We're not here to tell you that you're a great creative photographer, we love your images, and you should be adequately compensated for it. We're here to tell you and everybody else on this call, again, very clear. You got to understand what the model behind it is for you to make money with it. All right, so I'm off with my little rant, off to the next question. So what's lucrative in stock, James?
Okay, so it's a question we get asked a lot. How can I make money? What's lucrative? What's selling right now? My answer always comes back to the same thing, and I personally feel it's about diversification, maximizing your potential. But everyone's different. We should look at what works for you. But if I was a full-time photographer, as I mentioned earlier, I'd be trying to spread my work across a number of different agencies, a number of different models, and monitoring how things are going, because there's still money to be made across all those different types of models, including video, as I mentioned earlier. That's certainly an area that's really growing. And it is about creating more regular sales rather than waiting for, you know, three, four, five large sales per month. But in terms of actual trends, and what you should be shooting, you know, I would push you guys to have a look at our blog. Every quarter we produce a quarterly trends.
Did you bring anything that you can share?
Yeah, I can share that for you. 1 second.
Why don't we take a look at that? I think that would be probably really helpful.
Sure. So it's just, can you see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just alamy.com/blog. And on the tips and tricks tab here, if you click tools and trends, you'll be able to see the articles we've produced recently. You know, here we talk about a revival in lifestyle photography with a focus on family, how to cope with peaks and troughs within the photo industry, what's trending now in stock photography. And this is another big area of the whole idea of longevity and seniors in lifestyle imagery is very big at the moment. And also monthly, we do produce specific picture needs. You know, we have a team of picture researchers who undertake picture research on behalf of our clients. And what they will do is they will collate all the picture briefs where we haven't been able to fill them. Either there's gaps in the collection, or there's the content we've got isn't suitable. And what we will do there is we will actually list monthly the actual images that picture buyers are looking for that can't be found. So, but really, when you're thinking about what's lucrative in stock, I always say that you should really photograph the world around you. You know, that's what stock is. And if you want to see what's trending in stock, look what's trending in modern life. You know, a lifestyle shoot of a family around, you know, at home and around the TV is fine. But what's better is a family around a TV watching on-demand video. You know, watching something like Netflix, or, you know, using things that are current in modern life. And I think that's what buyers are really looking for. You know, another example would be you've got a shoot and you want to do some images of some teenage friends at a summer camp. Again, good idea. You know, will always be popular with certain buyers. But, you know, unless you've got images of those teenagers using selfie sticks and using their smartphones, you know, you're missing out on a trend that's around you. And it sort of sounds obvious, but I think with your stock photography, you need to be, you know, almost documenting the actual things that people are talking about in your day-to-day life.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, it is really about being very specific. So again, you know, back in the old days, what we did is we created productions that had a very broad appeal, so that the art director, the creative director that had the art buyer could then look at their sort of their concept, and then they'll took your images and they, you know, drop things in. So I'm hearing you say that that's really not the case anymore, because first of all, a lot of art buyers don't even exist anymore. Creative directors and art directors have to do a lot more of the work themselves. So they are trying to find an image that fits perfectly to what they're looking for. So specificity is the key. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of photographers I speak to, they want specifics. You know, they want to know what they can go out and shoot. What are buyers looking for at the moment? And it's the exact reason why we will list, you know, the exact search terms that buyers are using on Alamy. There's tools we provide that give you info on the search data. And I think being specific, and if you've got enough specifics there, you know, you've essentially got a whole shoot list of something that paying customers are actually looking for.
Okay, very good. And then one question, and then we're going to go and talk about sort of, you know, because I put together a whole bunch of bonus gifts for you guys if you do something to help you increase your business. So I'm going to get to that in 1 second, but I have one more question before I do that. So how many images, like what's the body of images I need to get started in stock to make a little bit of a dent?
Right. I mean, again, this does depend on your approach, you know, whether or not you're a specialist in one certain area, or if you're a general stock photographer. There's no real right or wrong answer in terms of the numbers. But on Alamy, you know, we typically recommend you should aim for, you know, a minimum of 500 images in order to get started. And that's not 500 images of the same thing. That's 500 varied, well-researched, well-keyworded, well-shot images. And then aim for, you know, 750, 1,000 and so on. Because unless you've got that amount, you're not going to be able to start recognizing trends. You're not going to be able to start recognizing what works for you, what works for your type of content. And if you do want to specialize in one category, so if you want to be a travel photographer, if you want to be a wildlife photographer, I probably wouldn't recommend that you narrow your specialty down that much. But if you do that, just make sure you're better than your competition. You know, if we take travel as an example, on Alamy alone, you know, we have 13,000 images of the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, we have 34,000 images of the Eiffel Tower. If you picture the Golden Gate Bridge right now, that's the photo we've got. We've already got that. So if you're going to go and shoot that, at least improve upon what's there, or look for areas that are not as well covered. If you're going to a specific location, buy a travel guide. Look at the images they're using. Look at the images. Look at areas of that guide where they haven't got images, and look and see if you can improve on the competition. Because if you can't, you're simply wasting your time. So for me, it's really about shooting what's needed and try and fill those gaps, because otherwise it's a lot of effort for very little return.
Okay, sounds great. All right, so let me jump now in what I have available for you. So here's what I was thinking. I want to give you an incentive for everybody on the call, including my favorites, my middle-aged angry white men, because I said it before, I love the industry. I want you guys to be successful. And
our wallets out. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, and there's no credit card needed, so there's no. So what I've done is I've decided that I want to give you an incentive to create an additional revenue stream, because we have James from Alamy on the phone or live here. Needless to say, the opportunity is going to be with Alamy. So when you look at this screenshot here, you see that there is, you know, the URL on this is photobizcoach.com/Alamy. And I'm going to put that in the chat room in a minute. And you get a whole bunch of free stuff. So I have actually a audio that I've recorded with Jack Hollingsworth, who is, you know, a master of stock photography and has hundreds of thousands of images out there that have been selling very, very well, that I did an interview with. called The 7 Myths of Stock Photography. So you sign up, you get that, you listen to it, you learn a few things, you're off to go. I've also written a book, and you get free 2 free chapters. That's especially for the women on the call. It's called Happy Woman, Happy World, your foolproof fix to get from overwhelmed to awesome. Then I have added I do these free coaching sessions, uncovery sessions, I call them. And if you want to talk to me, please apply for that. It is a game changer. These types of sessions, I do a ton of those. It's available to you if you are serious about your photography business. You want to take it to the next level, but you must fill out the application. And then finally, what I've done, and this is really a great incentive for you, I've created a stock photography system called How to Make Money with Stock. And I have not really been promoting that a lot, because I was keeping it for a very special occasion. And so here comes the best part about today. If you are going to register with Alamy and set up an account, and I'm going to give you that URL in another moment, you will get access to this How to Make Money with Stock online course that consists out of 4 sessions. So it has a photo biz part 1 and 2, where I talk about the business behind it. And then there is an interview with Tom Grill, who again is a master of stock photography, who tells you what you need to do, how you need to do it to make it in stock photography. Then we have Ellen Bond, who's written a book on microstock, and she's giving her advice. We have Sarah Fix, who is in charge of Blend Images, a collaborative environment. I think it's like 19 photographers that have set up their own agencies, very, very successful, again, telling you about what to do to be successful. I have the king of microstock, Yuri Arkers, in this stock photography system, where he is the nicest guy. He's sharing, again, a lot of the ideas and secrets on what it took him to become the best-selling photographer in the world in microstock. So he became a millionaire just by photographing microstock, and that's available to you. And then I have a stock shooter production checklist and another couple of sort of extra tools available for you. And again, this is available for you for free. You can't buy it. So nobody can buy this right now. So you get it for free. What you have to do is I want you to go to the login for Alamy and set up your an account with Alamy. And let me just bring this up right now, and I'm going to put this link in there in a minute as well, so that you once you uploaded 100 images, you will get this for free. You have to use the link that I give you, otherwise I cannot track you. So again, that's all there is today. You get 100 images up at Alamy, you get all of this stuff for free. And while I am going to put those links in right now, I am going to put this back on you, James, because we do have a little bit more time left, and so I want to see if we can have a couple more questions to go through. So we just talked about Alamy informing photographers about photo trends and stuff like that. You do that on the blog. And then we did have a question here about stock licensing and smartphones. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question I get asked quite a bit, is how much stock photography these days is produced by smartphones, and it's impossible to say for sure, but it's certainly on the rise. I mentioned earlier, Alamy have developed an iPhone app called Stockamo, which is all about how to sell your smartphone imagery. Again, I'm not going to give this the hard sell. It's a free app that you can use if you're into shooting images with your smartphone. I'll quickly show you the web page here. It's just stockamo.com. All the information's on there. It's iPhone only at the moment, but it's an avenue where you can take images and you can upload images that you've taken on a smartphone through the Stockamo app, and they go for sale on Alamy. But I won't talk too much about that because we don't want to focus too much on what we're doing. But it's looking at the images we get through that app. We have about 200,000 images in Alamy that are taken through the app and through. So have come from smartphones. Now, to see how popular smartphone imagery is, we can compare that to our standard stock, and proportionally, the images that come through the Stockamo through the smartphone route actually sell at the same rate, in fact, slightly higher rate in terms of frequency as standard stock. And interestingly, the prices we're getting for licenses for the smartphone imagery are actually higher than what we're getting for standard stock. It may be because the style of the smartphone imagery leans itself to more commercial usages. It's very much of the moment. It's spontaneous, which is very on trend right now. And also a lot of the filters and processing that people use with smartphone imagery is something that customers really are looking for at the moment. But actually, we get some clients demanding that the images we provide for their projects are shot on a smartphone. And that could be because it's a fad, but possibly not. And the quality is getting better and better. So I think smartphone imagery in stock is really interesting. It's definitely on the rise. And if the customer reaction to our smartphone collection is anything to go by, I think it's going to be around for a little while longer yet.
Okay, so thank you. And again, I'm going to go in the chat room and I'm going to talk about a few things. All right. So somebody says, again, there's always critics out there. So somebody says, I've been sending images and images to libraries for no avail. Is this what's going on? It's like, look, the quality of your image and your talent obviously also depends, the sellability determines on whether or not you're going to make money. Keywording is also part of it. We cannot possibly cover everything in an hour. I mean, look, it's been 54 minutes. We've covered a lot of your questions. So give James a break, give me a break. We've done as much as we possibly could to help you create an additional revenue stream. Somebody says, what happens when you already have an Alamy account and you want to have the gifts? Marco, just contact me offline and send me an email directly. I'll talk to James and we'll figure out what to do about that. That's a very good point. I hadn't considered that. Then somebody says, are you sending these links out by email? Yes, I do. I will send out an email to everybody who has registered with a replay link, and then I'll make sure that the link is in there, so that way you can go. But just remember one thing: photobizcoach.com/Alamy, and all the information is on there for you to proceed. Joe said this: do not buy these people. Boo on you, Joe, for being such a party pooper. Take it for what it is. Say either yes, that's for me, or no, that's not for me, but don't ruin it for everybody else. I've been doing this for a long time. There's hundreds and hundreds of businesses that are in existence because of the stuff I do. And I just don't appreciate you raining on my parade, which I will not be raining on your parade either. And, again, I always have to put that tough love stuff out there because I want you guys to stay focused. It's very simple. There's a lot of information on the internet out there. And very much like what you're doing right now, when you're discerning, is this for me? Is this not for me? The buyer looks at images and simply says, this is for me, or this is not for me. There's no reason to get upset. There's no reason to get angry. There's no reason to ruin it for other people. Just make an assessment for yourself. All right. And thank you so much, Linda, for being so kind and making some good points. Victor says, why are you being a party pooper now? It's like, look, I have to keep you focused. I've seen this over and over again, especially on LinkedIn and other areas. When I don't haul in the conversation to where we are at, it can go easily off track. That's my job. I'm known as the tough love German photo biz coach. I'm here to help you. I'm helping you to create this additional revenue stream. It's late in London. James could be out playing with his family. He's here right now. He's answering your questions. We want to be respectful and kind and appreciative, and then simply determine if it's for us or not. All right, James. So any last words for our audience?
Last words. Well, it's just to summarize really what we've said there. I think looking at what people are saying in the chat room, looking at the questions that we've been able to answer, and there was a whole bunch of questions that we couldn't even get to. I think, my one thing that I want to remind everyone is that there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much money to be made. I see someone in the chat room here has said, oh, smartphone imagery on the rise, that's bad news for us all. Why? Get involved. People are making money. And, if you've got a negative outlook towards something new, you're gonna miss out. And it comes down to the old sort of adage of adapt or die. And the people who are adapting are doing very well. And the people who aren't, maybe are not so doing so well. So I would see every challenge as an opportunity. I'd see every frustration you have with the stock industry as being an opportunity to look at why you feel that's a challenge, why you feel that perhaps it's not as easy as it was years ago, or perhaps you're not making money or not being successful, and turn that around and say, well, what can I do to fix that? Because plenty of people are. It's not doom and gloom for everyone. There's money to be made, and it's just about doing your homework. And as Beate was saying there, looking at what customers want and providing that, and you will make money. And I think that's the attitude to have, and roll with the punches and keep on top of what's going on. And I think you'll be okay.
Punches, yes. All right. Well, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, James. I so appreciate you taking the time being here. For everybody out there listening, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you guys are super busy. I give you 2 thumbs up for being here. I appreciate your hard questions. I even appreciate the banter, because it gives me an opportunity to really deep dive in and help you guys to overcome some of these personal struggles some of you have, and some of the resistance. There is money to be made. It's work. There's no free lunch. The photography industry, the stock photography industry, is work. And I appreciate you. I thank you for being here. I'll make the audio available. And again, for those of you who already have an Alamy account, I will talk to James. I will get back to you in an email and let you know what's going on. Thank you very, very much for being here, and I'll talk to you soon again. Goodbye.